Good evening, everybody. How are you? How's everything? I thought I'll go on live. It's a nice breezy night. It's not humid. It's very comfortable. Very comfortable evening. I'm here. I just finished doing a project. Just wanted to make a point. Something just. I just had a brief. Another one of those. I just had to share this. This is something that I must share. I mean, I wanted to give a definition. My title there. My definition of this particular topic is the difference between poor dysfunctional, being poor dysfunctional, and functional. I want everybody to understand what's the difference. Okay? I'm gonna do just poor dysfunctional and functional. I'm gonna do just. Oh, hold up, hold on a minute. There's this loud siren passing by, so I'm gonna give it a. I'm gonna let it pass by before I make my point. Okay, just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. All right. All right. The difference between poor dysfunctional and functional. Let me get to you. Let me give me a minute. I'm gonna wait for this to pass by, and we're gonna. And I'm gonna tell you the difference. All right. Now it's gonna. Okay, fantastic. All right. I hope they get there on time. All right, then. All right. Let me get to the point now. I'm gonna get to the point. I'm gonna tell you the difference between poor dysfunctional and functional. Okay, because I mean there is variations of it, but there's also dysfunctional rich and dysfunctional rich. But we're gonna stay on topic here, so I'm gonna stick with poor dysfunctional. That's a topic for another time, actually. The rich dysfunctional, and the rich dysfunctional. You know what I mean? That's a topic for another time. But I want to start with poor dysfunctional and poor dysfunctional, being functional and poor, being functional and poor, and being poor dysfunctional, or being poor functional, being poor functional and poor. The difference between being poor dysfunctional and the difference between being poor dysfunctional and being poor dysfunctional and poor functional. Let me tell you the difference between being poor functional and poor dysfunctional. Okay? This is the difference here. This is the difference, okay? I'll tell you the difference. All right, I'm going to tell you the difference. Okay, the difference between being poor dysfunctional and being poor functional. This is the difference. Being poor dysfunctional, just because you're poor doesn't necessarily mean that you're dysfunctional. Okay? Doesn't make you dysfunctional. You're just poor. Basically poor, but doesn't make you dysfunctional. Okay? There's plenty of people that grew up in poverty, but doesn't make them dysfunctional. Actually, they are very functional. They are very functional. Believe it or not, they are. Okay? Being poor dysfunctional is a whole other bracket. Okay? You gotta understand there's a whole other bracket being poor dysfunctional. Let me get to let me get to my point though. Being poor dysfunctional is being poor dysfunctional is somebody in a sort of dysfunctional situation. You know, being in a dysfunctional family. I mean, having having a family that is having a family that's dysfunctional in a sense where you might have a brother that has a substance abuse issue. You might have a brother that has a mental health issue. A brother or sister have mental health issues, substance abuse issue. You know, either or both. You might have a brother or a sister that be mentally ill, chemically addicted. You know, so yeah, you have and you know you might have it doesn't necessarily, you might have somebody that's in your family that's a drug dealer. You know what I mean? I mean, but I mean that could be a drug dealer. You know, and or you might have somebody in your family that's you know that's being dysfunctional. Actually, that's a dysfunctional situation. You might be in a domestic, you might be in a family that could be in a domestic violence situation. You know, domestic violence comes in all shapes and forms. You know, it comes in all shapes and forms. You always got to keep that in mind. You know, there's abuse. Of course, the most popular one would be I mean I don't mean popular as in mean like people that reports the most would be between a boyfriend, girlfriend, a wife, a husband. Those are the ones that people will say they'll talk about domestic violence. All right. Those are the ones that you see in you know, and logos and bulletin boards. I mean, those are the ones that people would necessarily consider domestic violence. When there's a husband and a wife, a boyfriend and a girlfriend. I mean, those are the ones. But what I want to discuss is basically domestic violence comes in all shapes and forms, man. I mean, it could be child abuse. Being in an abusive relationship doesn't necessarily have to be like between two people who are in in sort of paramour situation, you know, and they don't have to be in there like that. It could be all sorts of dysfunctionality as far as domestic violence is concerned. That can happen in any way, man. That could be just brothers and siblings. That could be happening with siblings. That could be happening with friends. You know what I mean? If I mean, like it happens. You know, it could be a situation where you're you have a roommate or something like that that's being abusive. You know, you have a roommate that's being abusive or something like that, and you're in an abusive relationship with her. You don't even like. You know, you could be in a situation like that. Verbally abusive, physically abusive. It happens. You know? So it can happen to anybody. It can happen in any circumstances. You know? So let me get to the point, all right? So the difference between being poor dysfunctional is that, you know, I mean, being poor dysfunctional meaning that you have a situation where you're not just poor. You have another situation going on as far as the mentally, as far as the mental. It could be mental. It could be it could be mental disability. You know, having a mentally challenged situation, substance abuse. It could be. I mean, I just mentioned them more. I mean, reality, I didn't mention them more because there's a lot of things that it doesn't necessarily have to be. It doesn't necessarily have to be a situation where you're in a, you know. Hold on, I'm gonna let this vehicle go by. It's making a lot of noise. You know what? You know what that's all about. You know, unnecessary noise pollution. You know what I mean? But that's another topic, okay? But you could be in a situation where, like basically you're in a situation where you're, mentally, you're in a situation where dysfunctional, being poor and dysfunctional is like you're being poor, you're economically deprived, right? You don't have the, you're poor, but you don't have the basic. You're poor, but you have like but on top of being poor, you have the other dysfunctional other things that are going on top of being poor, which is substance abuse, mental illness, and so on and so on and so on, you know. So those are the things I just mentioned before. So now you got poor, dysfunctional. You understand? That's when you got that in combination, and on top of that, you're poor, and you don't have, you have the basic. You probably got the basic necessities. I would say maybe you don't have the basic. You could be homeless. Maybe that's what I mean by being poor. Maybe homeless, but not necessarily homeless. You don't have to be homeless though to be poor. You could be poor and not be homeless. You know what I mean? Maybe you just can't afford to get the brand names that you want, that everybody else gets. You can't afford to get the brand names. Like brand names. Like for example, you can't get like Nike. For example, you can't get the brands that you like, whatever that is, Gucci, whatever, Prada, whatever it is that society consider, whatever it is that brand names, whatever, you can't, you don't live the lifestyle that you want to live. Like for example, living lavishly, and having your own room, just having your own room. Some people don't even have their own rooms. They don't even have an apartment big enough to support the amount of people that live in it. Maybe, but there's a lot of ways. You could. Here in this society, it's to me, people go hungry because they want to go hungry. I'll be honest with you, because there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of food pantries out there, and plus there's a lot of food pantries out there that can keep high. There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people out there that can keep you from that. There's a lot of situations out there that can keep can keep you from starving, especially here in the United States of America, man. Like if you are starving, you shouldn't be. There's a lot of food pantries here, especially in New York City. I don't know about what goes on in other states. You know what I mean? I don't know how their situation is over there. I feel that everybody from all over the country, in reality, they come to New York City. If you are poor and you're poor and if you're poor and less fortunate, everybody comes here. The poor and less fortunate comes over here to the city. They all come over here because of the fact that we have over here. We have a basically, if you go to any other state, any other place, if you're not working, you're basically not. If you go to a Republican state, any other state, you're basically like, if you're not working, you're basically, unless if you don't have any support, like family support, anything like that, and you're not working, you're basically homeless. Basically like that. Or it's just like that. You're homeless. You're living, if you have no support at all, no family or anybody to like put you up until you get you stable, until you're able to get a job and maybe a place of your own. Basically, you're homeless. So in those places, when you go to other states, you're basically homeless, and that's why everybody comes to a democratic state such as New York City, because of the fact that we have we basically cater to the homeless. There's a lot of non-profit agencies here. There's a lot of a lot of places here where they offer social services for everybody. You know what I mean? And whoever needs assistance. And there's a lot of food pantries around here. Then that means if you go starving, that means you're basically, that's what you want. I mean, in reality, that's basically it. It'd be difficult because it's always some sort of like, you know, you shouldn't have any issues as far as finding shelter, food, clothing, shelter. Those are the main things that a lot of places offer here, and you can get and then you can apply for benefits on top of that. If you don't want it, if because you don't want it, you know what I mean. If you don't want it, then it's not gonna come to you. You have to go to it. You know what I mean. Nobody's gonna give it to you. You know what I mean. You're gonna have to work a little bit for it. Although there's organizations out there that reach out to people, to the poor and dysfunction, to the poor and disenfranchised, and then they offer them services. You know what I mean. And they reach out, and yeah, but not everybody want to live in such conditions. Like nobody wants to live in a condition. You go to some of these places, some of them might be hospitable, other places might not be. You know what I mean? But like I said, let me get to the point. Okay, let me get back to what I was talking about before. What I was talking about before is the poor dysfunctional, and being poor dysfunctional and being poor functional. Okay, poor functional people. Let me talk about them now, because I already went through the poor dysfunctional part. If I missed anything, let me know. I probably missed a lot. I probably missed a whole lot as far as discussing poor dysfunctional. You know what I mean? I probably missed a lot. So if I missed anything, please on the bottom make a share. Make a comment. You know what I mean? Say, oh, you forgot about this, you forgot about it, you forgot about that. I probably missed out a lot, but I'm trying to keep this short and sweet. But I'm not really doing a good job at it. I'm trying to stick with the topic here, and it's not easy, actually. All right, this is what I'm talking about right here, okay? Functional. All right, functional. This is what functional is all about. Functional is basically what functional, poor dysfunctional is when you're in a loving family, people who love each other, and care about each other. Poor loving family. All right, when you're in a poor loving family, and you're together and happy, but you're dirt poor. But you're happy. You understand? There's a difference there. You're happy. You're poor, but you're happy. You know what I mean? There's no everybody loves each other. Everybody cares for each other. Everybody every hugs and kisses. And then normally those type of families, they're normally big families, like huge families. Normally they're like huge families, like they're like big family, like grandma. They have a big family. You know what I mean? You name it, it's huge. Those families are normally tight, believe it or not. They are. Because they have each other to support. They have a lot of support, a lot of love and support. They got grandma there. They got grandpa. They got, you know, and you got a mom and a dad, and you're like together. You know, like a dysfunctional family sometimes will lack a certain person, you know what I mean, in the family, like that used to hold it together. You know, like the father or mother. Sometimes that, they lack a single family household. Sometimes when they lack a certain thing, maybe at one time they used to be a poor functional family. At one time it was, until somebody passed away, or yeah, or even went to jail. You know what I mean? And then that made it that changed the whole spectrum of the whole situation, and it became a poor dysfunctional family, because there's one person that maybe misses their dad or something like that, or he's rebelling. His grades are not doing. He's not doing as good in school. She's not doing as good at school because of the situation. And their dad is in jail or something like that, or their mother is in jail, or maybe their mother and father is in jail, and they're living with their grandma now. You know, it just happens, man. It happens. How did they wind up going in jail in the first place? You know. But I'm just saying, the way things are going these days with ICE agents are arresting illegals. You know what I mean? That in itself can, like, in itself, they're gonna arrest your dad. They're gonna arrest the mom, and they're not here legally. So, I mean, and then the kid is basically the kid is basically gonna you know probably gonna go to foster care or something like that. But that's a whole different. I mean, that right there in itself, things can turn. What I'm trying to get to is that things can turn from poor dysfunctional to being, no, from being functional poor to being poor dysfunctional. It can just turn in a minute. Losing a job, that can happen. You lose your job, and it's just basically downhill from there. Like somebody, the main breadwinner of the family, losing the job might cause havoc in the family, and the lifestyle that you used to live. You don't live that type of lifestyle anymore. You just basically living day by day. You're living in a, there's certain things that you accustomed to getting. You don't get it as much as before. So we got to look at we have to basically. All right. So when we look at the functional family, poor functional family, they don't have they have the bare necessities. They do got food, clothing, shelter, maybe a really big family. Normally they come from a really big family. They have each other. They're always giving each other love, regardless of the situation. They always love each other. There's no issues. There's no drama. There's no drama. Everybody is but what they lack in money, they have in far as love is concerned for each other. And that has a lot to do with culture. You know what I mean? Believe it or not, I don't give what anybody says. That has a lot to do with the way you're raised, because not a lot of people can accept certain can accept. Not a lot of people can live could accept. Like I mean, you don't want to, like, people move out of, like, countries. You go to another country, you go to those other countries or something like that, they probably got, like, they probably live, like, over there, they have basics. They have the basics, necessities. They're provided with the basic necessities in life, you know? Very little options. They have very little options, and they're provided with the basic necessities, you know? So if you want to look at it, and then a lot of them want more than what the government provides them. You know what I mean? So they come to the United States. So they would come to the United States. They have more opportunities here, and they could become more than just what the government believes they could be. Because you got to understand, when you go to another country, when you're an apprentice, let's say when you're considered, like, let's say if you're, like, say that you have to, like, if you're gonna be, like, work in a factory or something like that, you work in a factory in one of those countries, you probably for the rest of your life you're gonna work in your family in the factory, and then your whole family is gonna work in a factory. They're all gonna follow in your footsteps, and that's the way it is in those places. There's really no opportunities, and you're poor for life. You're basically poor, but you don't know that you're poor. There's a difference. Over here, you're poor. You know you're dirt poor. You know you're here. Here you come to America. You sort of get the feeling that you're different from everyone else. Like everybody else, that kid with that kid that has that has everything. You know what I mean? You're basically. But the problem is, the difference is that you're in a family where, with that, you're in a function. The difference is that kid that gets whatever he wants to get probably don't get the same love that he gets at home than you do. There's a difference. That's functional. Once you're functionally poor. Functionally poor. Functionally poor meaning you're functionally poor, meaning that you have the emotional support from your family. You got that. You go to school and you become somebody. You will have more of an opportunity to become you'll have an opportunity to be who you want to be. Something that you're not going to be if you were, something that your parents never had the opportunity to be. That's why a lot of the people that come over here from other countries, they do better than people that are actually from here, because of the fact that their main motivation is to be a doctor. Their main motivation is to be a doctor, a lawyer. You know what I mean? That's what their motivations are when they come here, because they know what they would not have the opportunity. They would not have that opportunity if they were living in their country. So over here, a lot of them come over here to work. A lot of us over here, we're already, like, accustomed to a specific. We either, somebody got to be born in your family with some special abilities. You know what I mean? Special abilities. You got to be born. You got to be born with a special abilities. You know what I mean? You got to have special abilities. You know what I mean? Like for example, if you know somebody that's in your family that a great artist. You know what I mean? Somebody that's really good in art. You know, the whole family. You know, I mean, although they're a dysfunctional family, they get the idea. Oh, he's special. Maybe in this, maybe they try to encourage him to be better, or maybe go someplace that's gonna, go stay in school and maybe one day he could maybe become an architect or something like that, or be somebody. And if you have somebody in the family that acknowledges that ability, and say that acknowledges that ability, those abilities of this individual, then you and have the support, then maybe that person could be the shining star. It doesn't necessarily have to be art. It could be in sports, football, basketball, golf, boxing, whatever it is, somebody has abilities, be talented. It could be musically talented, could be musically talented. Those are the things, that when you were in a poor functional family, that what they embrace with love and understanding, and they will, and in that in itself, they'll flourish. If you, poor functional family, they provide the essentials. The only thing they'll provide is just say food, clothing, shelter, for example. They say they just got the basic necessities: food, clothing, shelter. They might not have. They might not have the let's just say they might not have the materialistic stuff, but they're functional, which makes them which would actually make it better than being functional rich, actually, because they would appreciate everything they have. And they'll utilize it to the best of their abilities. You know what I mean? When people who are rich and functional, they would not be able. Who are rich and functional, they basically neglect and they don't appreciate what they have. They don't appreciate anything. They have it there. It's just basically, well, actually, rich, dysfunctional, they have it all, basically. They have it all, but they don't utilize it appropriately. Just put it that way, okay? No, so it's just that's just the point I'm trying to make. The other point is this. The other point is this. Okay, the other point I'm trying to make is this. All right. I hope I was clear as far as making my point. As far as hold on a minute. Let me walk over here. There seems to be some activity up ahead.